Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Right Off the Bat podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Callan Thomas, and riding shotgun today with me is Jim Darby. Darbs, how we doing this morning?
Good morning, Callan. Doing great, and I'm stoked with our guest today because when you talk about, people who, you know, run the sport of baseball, I don't know how else to put it, or, this is the guy. And I think we're going to learn a lot about the sport, about how it's run. Uh, anyway, Steve Keener, President and CEO of Little League Baseball International. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Hey, good. Hi, Jim, Callan. Great pleasure to be with you. Obviously, have a real soft spot in my heart for our good friends at Easton. So happy to be with you.
Steve, thanks for joining us. And look, you got Darby talking like a youngster, using words like stoked. I mean, I think that's important as we're going to start talking about youth baseball and the words that kids think are hip these days, to kind of date myself. But thank you so much for joining us. As Jim said, President and CEO of Little League, which is the largest youth organized sport association governing body in the world. 84 countries, obviously huge here in the United States. Just for our listeners out there, can you, Darby and I obviously know this and we've worked with you for a long time, but can you just give a brief overview kind of the Little League program?
Well, Callan, you kind of hit the nail on the head. Now, I will tell you that Jim and I are both of the age where we work really hard at trying to sound young. And so
Yes.
when this is finished, I'm going to probably tell my staff that it was epic. So there's my use of one
Fire.
of my one of those young descriptive terms. So now Little League baseball and softball, obviously our softball program for girls. We offer programming for kids ages 4 to 16. We have, as you said, about 2.5 million kids playing in 84 countries around the world, both baseball and softball. Most people are familiar with Little League Baseball because they have either seen or they know about the Little League Baseball World Series in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, every August. But we also have 6 additional World Series, 2 other baseball, junior and senior baseball World Series, actually, and intermediate baseball World Series. It was actually out in California in Livermore. And then we have 3 divisions of our softball program, which we have World Series. Newest location for Little League softball is going to be in Greenville, North Carolina in 2021 with our fingers crossed and a little luck. We'll have a Little League softball World Series in Greenville for the first time in August of 2021. So we're stoked about that and really looking forward to having the girls experience the great hospitality and the great facilities of the Greenville Little League. And so really looking forward to that. Our program, though, is rather unique because we have our international headquarters in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, which we have about in Williamsport, probably around 60 full-time employees. And then we have regional operation facilities around the country in Connecticut, Indiana, California, Georgia, Texas. And then we have four operational offices in Seoul, Korea, Puerto Rico, Ottawa, Ontario, and Kutno, Poland. And those have a handful of employees at each place. But my point is we have probably somewhere between about 95 full-time employees. But the program really operates because of the selfless service and commitment of, in excess of 1 million volunteers. And you both know the gentleman I'm talking about, Pat Wilson, who's our chief operating officer, often describes Little League International as 9 months of the year we're kind of a service organization where we provide our affiliate programs, about 6,500 of them, with all the services and programming that they need to operate, everything from insurance programs to counsel on how to organize tournaments, all those types of services, safety programs, those kind of things. And then for 3 months, pretty much June, July, and August, then we become more of an events organizer. And that's where we host we start the tournaments at the local district levels. And the teams compete up through district and state tournaments, eventually to regional tournaments to qualify for one of our 7 World Series tournaments. So we operate all of those and become pretty much then we're basically running events. And so our year is 3/4 of a year we're a service organization, and for the other quarter of the year we're putting on events that people dream about playing in and get a lot of attention.
That's thank you. That's a great overview. And I've known you for a long time now, and you mentioned all the volunteers, which I mean, they're the heart and soul of Little League. I've heard you say that. I'm happy to be one. I think I've coached over 5 years now, but a word that I've always heard you use to describe the program is community. I don't know how many times I've heard you say it, but it's a lot. Right now, during this worldwide pandemic, Little League is so great because we need community more than ever. I know it's hard to get back out onto the field right now, but what actions are Little League taking? What are the directives out there to your charters and to your communities to kind of help us all get through this as best we can, and where there are opportunities to get back out onto the field?
Yeah, I don't know if we have the rest of the day to go through all of that, but I'll try to be succinct. Last year, when it was evident that we were going to essentially lose a season, and then it became a little bit more apparent as we got closer to the late spring and early summer that there would be some places that might be able to get back on the field. So last year in 2020, we actually had, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 2,000 leagues that were actually able to get back up and running and have some semblance of a regular season of play. But what we did is we culled as much information from as many professional experts as possible and put together essentially a resumption of the season guidelines that we sent out to all of our programs on how to get back up and running with obviously the appropriate mitigation protocols in place. But most importantly, and we to this day we will still tell our affiliate programs this, they have to operate within the guidelines and directives that are provided to them by their local and state health officials and government officials, because it's different everywhere. And so we can't have sort of one standard set of return to play guidelines. The most important part of that is listen to your local health officials and follow the guidelines that they're providing for you. You mentioned community, and before we actually came on the air, we were chatting a little bit. That's often a misunderstanding about Little League, is that Little League is a community-based program. Little League is a program where every child who wants to participate should have an opportunity to participate. Very often, a lot of these travel and sort of elite type programs, people confuse that with Little League because it's kids playing. And our program, we're focused on our mission. Our mission is to provide a neighborhood program for every child who wants to participate, regardless of ability, to have the opportunity to do so. And that should be all inclusive. And in fact, we're in the midst of executing a kind of a strategic initiative to look at ways to make Little League even more accessible to more kids. And we may have to make some changes to some things that we've done in the past to do that, because we want to provide more children the opportunity to get the many benefits that a Little League experience can provide. We were joking before about, Little League is a trademark name. We own that trademark. It's, Little League is specific to programs that are affiliated with us. And for people to understand that, it's kind of like we're the Kleenex of facial tissues. Okay, so there's a lot of youth baseball out there being played, but fortunately for us, the largest chunk of that is Little League affiliated. I think we often talk about market share. Well, we're probably somewhere in the 65% market share range of youth baseball, and we're very proud of that. That's what makes us the largest, and in my opinion, the best organized, at least youth baseball and softball program. But it is about community, and that's what's important. And I really think when we come out of this pandemic, whether that's this spring and summer or later than that, that I really believe there's going to kind of be a surge of, kids have been isolated, they've been confined, they've had things taken from them, they've been disappointed. And when they're finally going to be able to get back out and do things that are back to maybe a little bit more normalcy, I think parents are going to want their kids to have opportunities to get back to doing these things. So I'm always the optimist, and I'm hopeful, but I'm cautiously optimistic that we're going to see. I think we're going to see big numbers returning to play, because that's what people have realized they've lost through this, and I think the future is very bright for that.
I can tell you, as a parent with 3 young girls just on the other side of this wall behind me, who are all in virtual school right now and were very active before and have lost the opportunity to be with their friends and be active. We just can't wait. And so great to hear you say that. And I also I want everybody to understand that this isn't a new endeavor for Little League to really work to get kids back out there. This was going on prior to the pandemic. You guys have always been, trying to get kids active in the community. You worked really hard the last couple of years with the Play Ball initiative. You guys already had the Sandlot initiative coming out, which is just getting kids active even when it's not organized. So, you've been really nimble and flexible during this time. And just so this isn't, again, a new thing. We're going to keep it growing.
One thing that I think follows what you're saying, Steve, the kids being locked in, now they need to get out and play. This has always kind of been your genre, though. I mean, you've been CEO of Little League 31 years now, I believe it is, isn't it? And
since the late 90s, yeah.
Okay. And but what staggered me in looking back in that time is the growth of Little League, not just domestically, but internationally. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's always been your thing, is to get it out there so kids have an opportunity to play. And, how many countries are you in now?
84.
84. And you just last year were able to get Little League Baseball in Cuba. Or was it 2 years ago? I mean, which had to be an incredible undertaking.
Yeah, look, if you believe in the purpose of the Little League program, and that's to provide the benefits that we talk about for children, shouldn't matter whether they're U.S. children or children in another country. Those benefits can apply to any child. You know as well as anybody of the passion for baseball in Cuba, and I'll share with you a quick story. I don't know, it was probably 4 or 5 years ago, when Major League Baseball took the Tampa Rays down to Cuba to play the Cuban national team in a exhibition game during spring training. And President Obama was visiting Havana, first time the U.S. president, I believe, had been there in I don't know how long. Anyway, baseball commissioner Rob Manfred extended an invitation to me to join them on that trip. And Rob's passion is for getting more kids playing the game, more interest in the game at the youth level. And he said, why don't you come to Cuba with us, and we'll introduce you to the Cuban Federation officials, and maybe they'd have an interest in the Little League program, because President Obama had opened up more diplomacy between our two countries at that time. So I gladly accepted that and did it. And I met all the folks that he said we'd introduce you to. And that led to a couple of years of meetings and conversations. And we actually carved out an agreement with the Cuban Baseball Federation to bring all of their youth baseball programs into the Little League program, about 547 programs. And so they are now part of the Little League family. They're eligible to compete, to participate in our Little League World Series. They got within a game 2 years ago of coming to Williamsport. They lost in the Caribbean Regional Championship game to the eventual World Series champion, Curacao. And but starting in 2022, we're going to expand the Little League World Series by 2 more international teams and 2 more U.S. teams to bring a total of 20. And the international team expansion will work on a rotating basis between Puerto Rico, Panama, and Cuba. So at the very least, in 2023, we will have a team from Cuba in the Little League Baseball World Series. Now, they could qualify prior to that if they win the regional championship, but So yeah, so our goal is to spread the Little League program far and wide, to get the benefits of the program to as many children around the world as possible. And we have terrific volunteers, terrific people on the ground that are working to make that happen.
How do you find the volunteers? I mean, that's over a million people. How do you find them?
Well, I mean, most of them come from the local program. Like, most of them are parents who want to be involved in the act, like Callan. With being involved in an activity with their children, whether they're coaching or whether they're fundraising or working in the concession stand or umpiring, whatever the volunteer job requires. Most people want to be involved with the act. And then what happens there is a lot of them just kind of fall in love with the program, and they want to stay on even after their kids are out of the program. And that's where we really benefit from, because a lot of them, then they don't have children playing anymore, and they take on more administrative roles for us. And that we have about 600 what we call district administrators around the world. And many of them started out just like Callan as a Little League parent, maybe coaching a T-ball team or a Little League division team, and then they stayed involved. And now today they help us, really organize and operate the program at the local level. Internationally, we usually work through the various federations in those countries. People that have an interest in the game, and if they have an interest in the game and they have an interest in wanting to get involved in youth development, we can teach them about the Little League program. They have to have those two things. They have to have an affection for the game, and they have to have a belief that children can benefit from the game. You have those two things, we can really put them through an orientation that will make them understand how our program operates. And we've been very fortunate to have some terrific people involved.
So Steve, I want to go back to that a little bit, because you just casually throw out the names Rob Manfred and President Barack Obama, and Darby and I were talking last night about how connected you are, and I think our listeners need to realize that you are maybe the most connected man in baseball. I mean, everybody from Rob Manfred to Monet Davis. And I think you've been to the White House at least under 3 administrations that I know of. And you're obviously a very, very talented leader, and you've grown the program so much. So I don't mean this in any bad way, but isn't it great to have baseball in your back pocket as that form of diplomacy, to go to Cuba, to go internationally?
Oh.
I mean, who doesn't want to talk about baseball? I mean, it's not like we're going to talk about, trade agreements or whatever. You're going, hey, Cuba, I want to bring baseball to you. Or, hey, what you guys have done in Eastern Europe still kind of blows my mind. When I go to Williamsport and I'm meeting kids from Eastern Europe playing in the Little League World Series, I mean, isn't baseball such a great, vehicle to meet people and grow relationships, and what you've done worldwide?
Well, Callan, you answered the question by asking it, because there are thousands of people that could do my job and probably do it better than me. But where I'm so fortunate is to have the vehicle of Little League baseball and Little League softball, because that's what opens the door. I mean, if people want to do things that are going to benefit children, that's in their nature. People want to do things that are going to help kids, right? I'm just the messenger. The vehicle is the program that we have, and that's what's most important to me, is to maintain the integrity, the purpose of the program, so that people feel that way about it. So I'll give you an example. President George W. Bush was the first Little League graduate to be elected president of the United States. Okay, he has an affection for baseball. He used to own the Texas Rangers, right? He played Little League baseball. I remember when he came to the Little League World Series in 2001, brand new president. We found his Little League roster from Midland, Texas in our museum archives. So we had it framed and we presented it to him in a little private meeting before he actually came into the stadium. And I remember him looking down over the list of names on that roster, and he starts saying, yeah, Charlie, he played third base, and Billy, he couldn't hit a lick, and he, I mean, he went through like each kid on the, and what it did is it brought back those memories of his own Little League experience. And that's what resonates with people. So I thank you for the kind words, but it's the program that is what is attractive to people, and what what people believe in. And so, I've had the very good fortune over my 40 years with this organization to meet a lot of interesting people, talk to a lot of interesting people, but it's always about what can we do to grow the program, to make the program better, to give more kids the experience. And very often those people that are in the sort of the notable categories, they want to help. And we're very fortunate that that's the case. You mentioned Commissioner Manfred inviting me to go down to Havana with him. When he became commissioner, the first stop he made, he wasn't even officially, he got elected in August, whatever it was. He didn't actually take office until January of the following. The first stop he made was in Williamsport to the Little League World Series. And I remember him, we sat together we're watching a game, and he's asking me questions about, if you could wave a magic wand, what would you do to make the game more appealing to kids? But we had great. So the point is, I became convinced very quickly that we've never had someone in the commissioner's seat who was as invested and committed to the youth game as Rob Manfred. It was fun. So we've talked about a lot of things that we could do together, and we've developed some nice programming opportunities together. We have a really good relationship with them on a business side with, growing the game. But probably the most visible one was the creation of the MLB Little League Classic game, which is played in Williamsport during the Little League World Series each year. And I remember he and I were together doing kind of a joint interview with ESPN I guess it was ESPN. And one of the announcers made the comment, he said, well, you two have very similar jobs. Rob, you're the commissioner of baseball. You oversee 30 teams, 700, so how many players, blah, blah, blah. Steve, you've got the world's largest organized youth baseball program in the world, but you got to be very similar. And I said, well, not really. I said, we have very different jobs. I said, Commissioner Manfred, I said, he's got 30 clubs to work with, 30 owners, a players union, blah, blah, blah. I said, I've got 2.5 million mothers. And and I remember Rob turned to me, he says, I think your job's tougher than mine. But the point is, we're very fortunate to have someone in Major League Baseball at the pinnacle of the leadership of Major League Baseball that is as committed to the youth game as Rob Manfred.
Well, what's interesting, if you think about it, the great majority probably of the guys that play in Rob's program played for you first.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the beauty of the classic game is, when you see those two major league teams arrive in Williamsport at the Little League World Series, it's like it brings them back to their youth. It's like when President Bush was looking at his roster. It's that same sense. They come back and they say, we've been watching this on TV. We dreamed about this when we were kids. Now we're here. Sometimes we had trouble getting them off the field, because they just were taking it all in. And I mean, it's been a great relationship. We're working together with Major League Baseball to do a lot of things to grow the game, and we're talking about some things that hopefully we can find ways to better serve kids in underserved communities as well, because that's important. I think we need to. I told this. I was on a call the other day with some folks talking about some programming that we want to do, and I said I had a guy that I knew who was a lawyer who actually developed a course for law school on the ethics of law. And he wrote a book, and the title of the book is You Don't Have to Be Sick to Get Better. And, I think that's the way I always view the Little League program. We can always get better. We can always do more. And that's, so my point is we want to find ways to make the program more accessible to kids who may have not had an opportunity to be part of it. And we're going to find ways to do that, but a lot of help coming from Major League Baseball to do that.
So the Little League Classic is wonderful. And luckily I've been able to go to a couple now. And I think what you guys have pulled off and the nostalgia mixed with also moving forward and advancing the game, it works so well together. Like you said, the major leaguers come back and they remember what it was like to play the game back then, and what that event has done, where the players get to wear special jerseys with their nicknames on them and stuff. And it's just bringing Major League Baseball, taking it out of the context of being a business and bringing it back to being a game. And we've seen it. And Jim and I talked a couple weeks ago, and thank you for listening, by the way, Steve. I know we talked about this. We had Terry Francona on the show, and with all the things he's done, an entire life in baseball, helping end the curse of the band, being a major league manager for over 20 years, a player for over 10 years, the thing he's looking forward to most of 2021, and remember, he was in bad health last year and only got to manage 2 games. So he's excited to get back to managing. But he said the thing he's most looking forward to is that the Cleveland is scheduled to play in the Little League Classic this coming year against the Angels. And he describes Williamsport in the Little League World Series as, youth baseball meets the county fair. And congratulations on what you guys have done. And I just think your just perspective on the game. Obviously, Major League Baseball is a big business, but I think you guys have seen through that and said, yeah, but it's still a game, right? It's still a game. So what's your take on that?
Oh, it's still a game to those guys playing it. They're just big kids. That's really what that's really what they are. And they make a lot of money, and they are they're celebrities. But what you said, and we've seen this, and I remember the first MLB Little League Classic was the Pittsburgh Pirates and the St. Louis Cardinals, and Tommy Pham played for the Cardinals at that time, and he's sitting in the stands with kids from 3 or 4 different teams in the Little League World Series around him, and they're talking and they're laughing and having a good time. And Tommy saw the snow cone vendor, and he yelled down to him. He said, "I want 200 snow cones." And so he bought 200 snow cones. And is passing them. He said, "This is what I remember from Little League." He said, "Every game we got a snow cone after the game." He said, "So I bought 200 of them to give to all the kids that are sitting here." I mean, that's what they, that's what brings those guys back to their youth. Todd Frazier 2 years ago or 3, whatever it was, when he was playing with the New York Mets, Todd played in the Little League World Series, and they actually won the Little League World Series championship. I think it was 1998 with Toms River, New Jersey. And, Todd hadn't been back on Lamade Stadium since that time. And he was like a little kid again, and he was pointing out to every one of his Mets teammates. He said, "There's where I hit the 1 home run." He said, and he would tell me, he said, "I'll be sitting in the dugout at a major league game." He said, "A guy will hit a pop up, just out beyond shortstop." And he'd say, "I'd tell him, Williamsport, that's out of the park."
I think you were telling me the story, talking about the presidents and all the players, that Joe Biden, President Biden, was at Williamsport one time. Tell that story about the guy that yelled out to him.
No, we were, it was incredible. President Biden played Little League in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And in 2009, we inducted him into our Little League Hall of Excellence. So he came to Williamsport as vice president then to accept the induction honor, along with Chris Drury, who is another Little League World Series legend, probably more so to the hockey fans that are listening, that, Stanley Cup champion. But when he was 12 years old, he led his team to the Little League World Series championship from Trumbull, Connecticut. So Vice President Biden and Chris were our inductees that year. And when we were finished, my job was to escort Vice President Biden off the field and up to where we were going to be seated. And as we're walking along the front of the stadium, about 15 rows up, some guy stands up and yells, "Hey, Joe, hey, Joe." And Vice President Biden kind of snapped around and looked up, and the guy stood up and he held up one of these old gray wool Little League baseball jerseys, the old hot, itchy kind. And he said, "Do you remember Hank's Hoagies?" And it said Hank's Hoagies that was the name of the team, right? He says, "Do you remember Hank's Hoagies?" And Vice President Biden, without missing a beat, now President Biden, without missing a beat, says, "Do I remember him? You beat us in the championship game." And he said, "Yes, we did." And I'm looking, I said, "Really?" And he said, "Absolutely." He said, "We lost to Hank's Hoagies in the championship." He said, "I can't believe that guy brought the jersey here to remind me of that." I said, "Well, that's what," he said, "Oh, honest God," he said, that's the beauty of this program." And,
well, Terry Francona, as Callan, we had him on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he said something that I thought was really symbolic of your program. He said what turned him on so much to it when he was an announcer for ESPN, I guess, that one year he was there. He said, what amazed me the most, and I think this isn't just at Williamsport, I think this is worldwide, he said, is how they treated the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you think about President Biden thinking back on his time when he played against Hoagie's team, or
Yeah.
or President Bush playing Little League, or Chris Drury, they're all going to look back and say, this is how they treated us. And this is why
Yeah.
Little League is, in my opinion, Steve, so, I mean, many reasons, but it's how you treat the kids is why you're so successful.
Well, and Terry was only with us for 1 year, but I remember talking to him when he was here, and what he was amazed at was that he said, when you watch this on television, you really just see the games. He said, because that's what television is covering. So you see the kids playing the games that are very talented and at a young age, and they're fun, and fun to watch them. He said, what you don't see on TV, which they try to bring some of it to you, but you really can't cover it all. He said, what you don't see, and that's where he came up with the line about how Little League is baseball meets the county fair. He said, because after the game's over, he said, I go up to the area where they're housed in the dorms and the dining hall and the swimming pool and all of it. He said, it's like a little mini Olympic village for these kids up there. He said, you couldn't pick out a winner and a loser from the game because they're all swimming and eating pizza, and they've got their phones and iPads or whatever translating so they can talk to each other. They're playing ping pong. And he said, we forget that they're just kids. They want to play a game because it's fun to play. And of course they want to win. They play hard. They try to win. But when it's over, it's over. And that's what we see. And that's, sometimes I don't want to say I get a little thin skinned about it, but the people who kind of complain about it being so much pressure or exploitive, it's not the case at all. The kids love playing on television. I remember a kid from Lufkin, Texas, a couple of years ago. He made a great play in the field, and I remember they had a microphone on the coach, so they heard the kid. Kid came up to me and says, "Hey, Coach Bud," he said, "Can we stay up tonight to watch Sports Center? Because I think I'm going to be on it." and the coach said, "What time's Sports Center on?" He goes, "I think 10 o'clock." He says, "Nope, everybody in bed at 9."
They can get a tape of it.
yeah, that's right. But I mean, the point is, it's that kind of stuff. But we do, and we make an effort to, we have a session when the teams arrive where we, you don't see this on television, but we have introductions of everybody, and everybody gets to meet everybody and tell us about their hometown and where they're from, and share something unique about who they are, those kind of things. And we have a nice sort of opening with them that's kind of private, that they and what happens is the kids become friends, and you'll end up seeing. And that's why when you see a kid hit a home run and he's coming around third base, very often you'll see a third baseman give him a high five. Right? You never see that at any other level of baseball, right? But it's because they were probably playing ping pong together last night, or they know they're going to have pizza when the game's over, and that's just kind of the way kids. I think we can all learn a lot from them by watching them, and so yeah, it's we try to treat the kids like kids. That's really what it's meant to be.
Well, and I think you guys have done such a great job of ingraining that in people. It's not like a hard ask or a hard push when they get there. When I think about Little League, oftentimes I'm thinking about those moments that do get caught on camera, when you have like the coach Dave from Rhode Island, when he's talking to his team, or I can't remember the coach, the bigger gentleman who was from New Jersey a couple of years ago, and how much it means to the parents, to the coaches, to the dads. I mean, this is a time with their kids that that they'll remember forever. And you guys have been very fortunate in that regard, and to just capture some moments that just in a way transcend humanity in a way. And you've formed a lot of those friendships. I remember. I'm blanking on his last name, but Dave's come back, and now he's a commentator in Williamsport.
Dave Belisle.
Yeah. Can you just talk us through some of those moments that have just, that to me, that's the essence of the game. in a lot of ways, and just the
Oh,
interactions you've seen between the
yeah,
coaches and
there
players.
there've been so many. There've been so many, but Dave Belial's obviously one that was very notable because they forgot to take his microphone off, and that's really what got that was he had his microphone on, that's connected to the ESPN broadcast when he took his kids out to the outfield and got them. They were eliminated from the World Series now, so the kids, a little few tears, they're upset, and he gave them that very inspiring talk. Uh, but there have been so many. I remember a couple years ago, there was, in fact, we just lost her. There was a mother who, with I think might be Cedar Rapids Little League, Mrs. Bloom. She was being interviewed. She suffered with cancer, and she was being interviewed by, I think, Julie Foudy from ESPN during the second or third inning of the game, and her son came up to bat while the interview was going on, and he walked, and Julie kept the interview going and was talking with her about the struggles that she's had and how important this little league team run was to them and their community and all those things. And he ended up, I don't know, he advanced to second. He ended up scoring a run, and she was like petrified because she was on television being interviewed while this was going on. And she finally just looked at Julie and said, "I have to cheer." and Julie said, "Yes, you do." And she said, my son just scored a run in the Little League World Series. And, it was so meaningful to her, but yet, and I think we just lost her a couple of weeks ago. And, that'll be a moment that family will have forever. I remember a couple of years ago, there was a game between, I might not get the countries right, but it was, I think, the Dominican Republic and maybe Venezuela playing. And a little pitcher for the Dominican gave up a game-winning hit, and it was a great game, and it gave up a kind of a walk-off base hit, and he just collapsed on the mound, in dejection because he gave up the hit. And the coach and a couple of the kids from the Venezuelan team, instead of running to celebrate with their teammates, ran to the pitcher's mound and lifted him up and hugged him. And it became, and they caught all this on camera, and they showed the compassion and the feelings that these kids had for each other. So what most people didn't see happened after that was the next day or 2 days later, the team from Venezuela got eliminated in the game. And the little guy from the Dominican Republic, who these kids had lifted up, was at the game and asked one of our people if he could go down to the dugout to hug them. And so they took him down, and he went in, and it was the point. That's my point. I mean, baseball's just the vehicle. And those are moments that I will always, I will always remember. But,
Yeah. Talking about doing things for kids, one of the programs you have installed in Little League, which I think is really cool, is the Challenger Division. And this
yeah,
is for kids who, have
yeah,
physical issues. So
yeah.
tell us a little bit about that program.
Oh no, I mean the Challenger program. I said when we started, Little League's a program for every child, regardless of gender, race, ability, disability, anything like that. The Challenger program was started because there are kids who have challenges that just are not capable or not able to play on the more conventional Little League program. So this program's designed with modified rules of play and everything to give them the opportunity to be part of a Little League program. And we actually, every year, we bring 2 Little League Challenger teams to Williamsport during the World Series and let them play kind of an exhibition game on the Little League World Series so that they can have kind of their own World Series as well. It's a very emotional game. What the neat part about it is that for the most part, all the Little League World Series teams that are still with us at that point in the tournament always come to the game and cheer on these kids. And I can't tell you how much it means to those kids who are, facing a lifetime of debilitating challenges, to have those kids that they've been watching on television and see them sitting in the stands cheering for them. That's very special. And we usually end up with 7, 8, 9,000 people at that game. And but it's a great program. There's very few rules. It's just a chance for kids to get out, put on a uniform, and and be part of a little league program. I remember one a mother of one of the kids on one of the teams who had a little boy with Down syndrome. She said the Little League World Series was on in their living room, and she said he was pointing at the TV saying me, and she didn't realize. She said, "What do you mean me?" I mean, so he ran and got his Little League Challenger jersey and brought it down and said me, and pointed at the TV. I mean, that to me that's enough, right? I mean, that kind of says it all. If if we can provide kids with that kind of an emotional lift, then it's certainly worth doing everything that we're doing.
Not just for the kid, but how about the parents?
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh
In
my
fact,
gosh.
we've had many of the challenger parents saying that one of the things that's great for them is it's kind of a break, for an hour or two on a Saturday morning or Sunday afternoon or whenever it might be. They said to sit in the stands and watch our child out on the field with other kids participating in a healthy, fun activity is meeting other parents of kids with similar, so it's got some real social benefit as well.
Baseball's at the hub of it. Baseball's at the center of it. But I think again, Steve, to pay you another compliment, I think one of the great things that you guys do at Little League, and you in particular, it's great while it's there, and whether it's the Challenger game or just a local game in your community, not even the big tournament on the stage at ESPN. Yeah, the baseball is important and the baseball is fun, but you guys aren't in the business of trying to make these players major leaguers, because that's not in the cards for most people. And I think you guys do a great job of that with the Hall of Excellence and with other people you associate with the program that aren't necessarily baseball players, but they have baseball in their past. They have baseball as part of something that helped them become who they were. And, can you just touch on a little bit of that perspective? Well, baseball is at the center of Little League. It's so much more than that.
Yeah, we one of our former board members had the best, in my mind, descriptive term of what we do is, we're not in the business of developing major league players. We're in the business of developing major league people, and that's really what and our Hall of Excellence is really designed to put a focus on people who have played in our program, have gone on to attain some success in their chosen walk of life, and then we can hold up and say, for kids, you should aspire to be like these people, right? I mean, and a lot of, so for example, we have an astronaut in our Hall of Excellence. Story Musgrave actually went up and fixed the Hubble telescope. Okay, he played Little League. Nothing wrong with a child aspiring to be an astronaut, right? We have a surgeon who I believe did the first human hand transplant, who played Little League baseball and is in our Hall of Excellence. And we have a lot of notable people too. People that are, we mentioned President Bush and now President Biden are both in our Hall of Excellence. We have some people from the entertainment community. Tom Selleck is in our Hall of Excellence. Probably one of my favorite ones who's in our Hall of Excellence, who's a great baseball fan, played Little League baseball, loves the game, is Kevin Costner. And in fact, can I tell you a quick story about that? When he came to Williamsport to accept his Hall of Excellence induction, he brought his son Joe with him, who at the time was probably 10 or 11 years old, and was the same age as, in the ages of my boys. And so when we were all finished with the World Series, the championship game was over, and it was nighttime. Everybody's cleaning up, and we were out for dinner. I was out for dinner with my family. I got a call from one of my staff guys and said, "Hey, Kevin Costner wants to know if it'd be okay if he and Joe go over and hit some ground balls at Lamity Stadium." I said, "Well, certainly, that's fine." He said, "Well, one thing, they want you to bring Josh and Nick over, and my two boys, because they had kind of palled around with them a little bit while they were there." He said, "They want to know if Josh and Nick can come over and play with them too." I said, "All right, we'll be there. I'll bring them." So I brought my two boys, and Kevin and his son Joe were there, and before long, about 7 or 8 other kids for some reason just kind of showed up. So Kevin Costner says, let's have a pickup game. So he said, you take half of them, I'll take half of them, and you and I will be the pitchers, and we'll let them. I said, perfect. So we're on Lomity Stadium at like 8:00 at night under the lights. Here's my team with 3 or 4 kids, my boys and a couple other kids, and then Kevin Costner and his son and 3 or 4 other kids playing this little sandlot game right on Lomity. So we get all done, and we've had a ball. I mean, this has been so much fun. Kevin goes, I want to hit one. He said, how about if I throw you a couple, then you throw me a couple? I said, okay. So he said, you go first. Well, I hit a home run off Kevin Costner. That's my claim to fame is that I hit one out of Lomity Stadium off of Kevin Costner. And that was my, that's my only the second home run I ever hit in my entire baseball career. I hit one when I was in Little League. And then the only other one I hit was off Kevin Costner in that Sandlot game at Lomity Stadium. But we just had and I remember him telling me, he said, this is the way it should be. And so, you mentioned, Jim, a little bit ago, our new Sandlot program. That's, in some respects, that's kind of a little bit of the inspiration for that program, because you and I both know, and maybe Callan to some degree, when we were kids, that's what we used to do. You just show up at a ballpark or a vacant lot or wherever it was you could play.
School field or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
If you had 8 or 10 guys or girls, whoever it would be, you picked up teams, you made your own rules, and you settled your own disputes, and you just played. Right. And I think there's great value in that. It's disorganized. There's no coaching. There's no pressure. So we developed this new program called the Little League Sandlot program. And we introduced it this year because of the pandemic thing. And maybe some leagues might want to try it because they might not be able to get all the kids back to play. And we had about 300 leagues that actually tried it.
Tell us what it is. Tell us what the program is.
Well, the program that we offer is leagues can have, do it on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday, whatever they want to do it. All they have to do is tell the kids, just show up at the ballpark. Bring your friends with you. They don't even have to be in the Little League program, but bring them with you. The kids pick the teams. There's no coaches allowed, no umpires. So you take a bucket of balls and you go out to the pitcher's mound, and the kids pick the teams. And they decide that, if they don't have enough, that you got to pick the field you're going to hit to. And if you hit to the opposite field, you're out. Right? 2 foul balls, you're out. That kind of stuff. They make up their own rule. And the reviews that we're getting on it from our people at the local levels are the kids and the parents absolutely love it. In fact, some of the kids say, I like this better than the regular Little League game. It's more fun. Because I get to bat 10 times instead of once or twice during the game.
Yeah. I call this Back to the Future.
Well, but my point is that, and what we have learned from it is that so many leagues that have implemented it have said that it has actually improved the social environment around their league, because now mom and dad who are dropping their kids off to play in this little Sandlot day or program, they're seeing parents from kids from other teams that maybe they never knew or never saw, or the only time they ever saw them was when they were playing a competitive game against each other. So now they come back to play their regular scheduled game, and they say, hey, there's Jimmy and Billy and Sally that played in the Sandlot program on Saturday afternoon, but they're on the other team now. So how can we root against them? Right. So the point is that it has a lot of benefit to a local program, but that's where I think kids learn the instincts of the game, just playing like that, getting more ground balls, more fly balls, more swings, those kind of things. This is my argument with this sort of whole travel ball concept, because very often, and I'm sure there are teams that practice, but most of them don't. They just play games. They don't really practice, because sometimes the kids are traveling from other places just to be on that team. That's the value of Little League being, back to Callan, what we talked about, being a community program. So it's one of the things we talked about, being more flexible, more adaptable. We're trying to do some new things that will give kids access to our program that maybe didn't have it before. We've often heard from leagues that say, we had 2 or 3 kids that they didn't sign up to play this year, and 2 or 3 games into the season they thought they'd like to play, and we said, well, it's too late. We've already got our team set. Well, the Sandlot program doesn't operate that way. If those kids want to come play in the Sandlot program, they're welcome to do so. And then we're still trying to figure out how to get them into the program if they want to continue to play. So it's a terrific program. look, I'm rambling on about it, but some of my fondest memories are those of just playing informally with my friends, and thinking about not realizing at the time how beneficial that was. It was just fun. And we had that chance with Kevin Costner on Lamade Stadium of all places. So
And Steve, before I forget, because it's such great information, um, and your team has done such a great job. LittleLeague.org is the website for Little League International, and they do a great job of teaching all about these different programs, how to set up a charter, about the Sandlot program. They have the Little League University. So for all you parents out there, if you're trying to get Little League in your area, if you're trying to help your kids get out and play, check out the website again, littleleague.org, for all of this information. It's really useful and broken down in ways that make it easy for parents like me to understand it.
yeah, and Calvin, I would only add to that if you're a parent or someone who is not part of a Little League program, at that same website we have what's called a league finder, where you can just go in and type in your address, and it will actually show you where the closest Little League is to you. So if you want to look for a place for your children to play, and if you're already involved in Little League, there's a lot of other, as you already more eloquently stated, there's a lot of good information there on how to operate the entire program.
Yeah, and putting my parent hat on for a second, we're just so conditioned to like try to get our kids involved in so many activities and so much structure and already thinking about the future. And sometimes you take a step back. We all want them playing baseball and just being and social and just taking a step back. And like you said, baseball teaches everybody such good, valuable lessons. And like you said, can turn you into a major league person. And that's important.
Well, what I would say to those parents, and I'll say to you as a parent of young children, you got to enjoy the moment. Don't, you said it. I mean, people are so focused on what's next and what's in the future. When I have an opportunity to talk to Little League parents and coaches, and I get it a couple times a year where I'll be with a group of people and I'll get a chance to speak. I say, I wish I could put you in a time capsule and fast forward your life 10 or 15 years from now, because I guarantee you that you're going to look back and say, why did we get so wrapped up in what happened in that 9-year-old or that 10-year-old game? Why was it so? Why did we think it was so important to win, or for little Joey or little Susie, to excel at that time? Because what happens when they're 9 or 10, quite frankly, is going to have very little impact on what happens when they're 15, 16, 17 years of age, from an athletic standpoint, right? They're going to learn lessons playing Little League that hopefully will carry over into those teenage and adult years. But if we can enjoy the moment, because I think that's too often what parents get caught up in is, I want my kids, I want them involved in everything. I overschedule them. I'm extending them, because they're never going to play on the high school team if they don't do this when they're 9 years old or they're 10 years old or they're 11 years old. Just enjoy the fact that they're out there doing something with their friends. Baseball and softball are games of imperfection. I mean, Jim, you both know this better than me. What's the old adage, Jim? Arguably the greatest hitter of all time in Major League Baseball, Ted Williams, when he hit 400, right? Well, he only was successful 4 out of 10 times. So how could we possibly expect kids to be perfect? They're going to make mistakes. That's what baseball and softball is a game. It's about. So they're going to fail. I mean, you can fail 7 out of 10 times and you're considered a great hitter, right? So failure is part of the game, but what you want to do is you want to teach them to learn from that failure, right? You strike out, you ground out, fly out, whatever it might be. Hey, you go back to the dugout, keep your head up, you get another at bat, you get another try, right? And after the game, it's over, because nobody's going to care 10 or 15 years from now that you struck out in a 10-year-old game.
Yeah, but you know what they are? You know what else they're going to remember? And I'm seeing this with my kids now. It's you want them playing, you want them to learn how to face adversity and overcome it, but it's then I love it now that I don't even really know how it happened. I didn't purposely do it, but I love that my girls root for the teams that I root for. And it's something we can talk about now.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they want to just go play catch, even just playing catch, it's a great thing. And let's get people out playing. And baseball is something that's going to connect you to your family and to others for a
Yeah.
lifetime.
Well, I don't know if you saw this story or not. I think I saw it in the New York Times. There was a man down in Texas, 74, 75 years old. And because of the pandemic and, having to isolate and everything, evidently played baseball all through his youth. And he had his glove and a ball. He was just sitting in his living room one day, how you throw the ball in your glove, right? And his wife said, "What, you got to do something." He said, "Oh, I'd love to play catch." Right. So she somehow or another, I don't know, through social media, whatever, she kind of put the word out. My husband, who loves the game of baseball, would love to play catch. Anybody who's interested, come down to the park at 10 o'clock Saturday morning or whatever. 25 people showed up, all ages, from kids to other 75, 80-year-old men, and they all had their gloves and their ball, and they had one big game of catch, right? And then they talked about what connected them, and some of the younger people got to hear stories from some of the more experienced people who were there, and they talked about the game that they watched and what it's like to. My point is, to your point, Callan, I've often said this: if parents would just go play catch with their kids, you'd be amazed at how much good that can do. It's a simple thing. It's such a simple thing. But if you just take 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, and go out in the backyard and play catch, there's nothing like it. It's what connects people. It's what, so what if they don't, if the ball flies over their head or they drop it, that doesn't matter. You're playing catch, and that's what connects people with this game. And it can be baseball or softball. I often, we talk about Little League Baseball, and the Little League World Series in Williamsport gets a lot of attention, but we have a terrific initiative called Girls with Game, and it's a program designed to put a focus on young female athletes. We've been very fortunate to have some of the finest, softball people in the world are giving their time to help us to further develop our softball. Sue Enquist, for example, the former, great softball coach at UCLA. Sue is terrific, and Jenny Finch and Kat Osterman, and I shouldn't start naming them all because I'll get in trouble because I miss them. But we're putting a focus on, young girls deserve as many opportunities as young boys. So I don't want to go without saying how delighted we are to have those kind of people helping support us with our softball initiatives as well.
Yeah. Well, getting back to this whole thing, whether it's softball or baseball at your different venues, when you get international teams and U.S. teams together, you see what baseball does. I mean, Callan, you've been in the World Series. I've been there. And I see the kids from Europe, the kids from Africa, Latin America, Asia. When they intermix with the kids from the U.S., there's no boundaries. They're just kids. They're just playing, and whether they're boys or girls, it doesn't matter. So what you're saying here is so cool that I wish adults will learn more, quite frankly.
Yeah. 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 I don't know how much time you have left, Callan, but I was
just gonna say thanks, Steve, and yeah, we've kept you, and you've been very generous with your time. The only I just, because it's so important, and we've talked, it can all kind of trickle back to how baseball is important to community and our lives and our families. Just one more time, as we're working our way out of this pandemic, again, just families out there, young players, make sure you're going on littleleague.org. You're getting, the help and the resources you need to learn how to get back on the field safely. I'll give a little plug for Easton here. I usually don't do that, but Easton and Little League worked really hard together on another social media initiative called Backyard Games. Just, hey, these are things you can do to help stay active. Steve, to your point, just having a game of catch, but let's help each other get back out onto the field. whatever form it is, but Little League is providing a ton of resources to get there. Steve, as it stands right now, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're on track for the Little League World Series in all the different forms and age groups and divisions coming up in August, and we're going to do everything we can to help our communities recover and get back out there, right?
Yeah, right now, our we have two objectives for 2021. That's we're going to do everything we can to help local Little League programs get back on their feet. And we heard from our people in the field that we've taken one tournament season away from them. They certainly don't want that to happen again. So our intent, and we're hopeful that we're going to provide a tournament season which will conclude with a World Series. And that may have to take a different form than we've done before. We may have to have some mitigation protocols and things in place to do it. But right now, our intention is to do it. So let me also tell you, I know, Callan, you said you were hesitant to promote Easton. We've enjoyed a great partnership with Easton over the years, and that really all started with our good friend Jim Easton. Many years ago, and I would be remiss if I didn't at least take the opportunity, to thank Mr. Easton and his wife Phyllis. They've been very supportive of the Little League program for many years, and in fact, you see at our stadiums, you'll see the Easton Foundation scoreboard. Well, Jim Easton made that possible, and so he was a terrific man, a terrific leader in your industry, and we owe him a great deal of gratitude for supporting the Little League program so passionately over the years. So I hope he's doing well, and just want to mention him.
That's cool. We appreciate that.
Yep.
Yeah. So again, Steve, thanks so much. This is great for families and young players out there, and just growing the game in general, which we all want to do. But so we wish you and Little League good luck as we work our way back out onto the field, and we're here to help in any way we can. And again, thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Happy to be with you guys, as always.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Well, Darbs, another great show. Steve Keener, such a humble guy, being the president and CEO of Little League. I mean, largest youth organization for organized sports in the world. Having over 2 million kids play baseball and softball. It's just so awesome. So just great show. And thanks so much. And your take on Steve and everything.
Well, Steve's terrific. I mean, you couldn't have a better guy running that organization, and he's been doing it for so long. And I think, Callan, anybody who listened to us today, I hope they realize the scope of Little League. It's not just that 11-day period or 13-day period in Williamsport. I mean, it's worldwide. It's year-long, encompassing. And it's involving millions of kids. And what I thought was more interesting, the effect on parents and what it means to the game for the parents, too. So I thought that was terrific.
Yeah, and I think we're all looking forward to getting back out there and getting on the field. And, hey, the more people playing baseball and softball, the merrier. So great show again. Just want to remind our listeners right off the bat is an Easton original production produced by Connor McGlynn. Again, really big special thanks to Steve Keener. And thanks for joining us. Be sure to download right off the bat on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts for your listening pleasure. And we will be back soon with more great baseball and softball guests. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.